Just wanted to send out a quick video, with a quick update from yesterday. Just a continual post. We have not seen any, or I have not heard of anybody else becoming sick from the exposures that happened this past Sunday concerning COVID. So that's great news because as most guidelines go, symptoms show within 48 hours. And so we are well on the outside of that window. And so I'm excited about that. Still praying for all of us. But more importantly, I just want to take some time for us to be able to lean into the Word. I haven't done this in quite a while, and I guess because of all that transpired yesterday, God just really pressed it on my heart to be a pastor that shepherds and reminds us of how to stay centered. And so that was a lot of my time with him this morning. And so I'm just going to lean into that with you for a little bit. I was reading in Ephesians chapter 5 and chapter 6 this morning. And so very familiar passage to me, one that I've preached, one that I've studied, one that I even wrote papers on when I was in seminary. And so, but what was really just powerful was how God just continued to stir my heart, to deepen my heart. And so that phrase right there at the beginning of Ephesians chapter 5, verse 1, it says, "So imitate God." I just paused. God stopped me in my tracks and just really said, "Mark, how are you doing with that? What's going on in your heart? What are you broadcasting to others about what that really looks like?" Excuse me. And so my mind and my heart immediately went from there. Mark, how are you trusting? Trusting God will always work things out for His glory. And so I'll pass some of these challenges on to you, as to maybe encourage you and to spur you on. So as we live a life of agape love, how are we imitating God? How are we trusting God? Just as Paul says that we should trust God, we should imitate God, we should love God, just as our Messiah, Jesus, imitated and trusted and loved Him. So yesterday's news from the pastor's desk was challenging, to say the least. Many of you like myself, probably had a very restless night last night, wondering if there was going to be any other reoccurrences of COVID in the church. And so my heart is very heavy, very concerned. I deeply love you as a church family and have great concern for your well-being and feel the weight of that. Spiritually and, in this case, for your health and well-being. And so maybe you were there last night too. It wasn't necessarily for you or concern for your health, but it was concern for others in the church. Maybe it was for your health. And so I trust that today being a new day, His mercies being new, finding out more information that it really is showing no signs of being spread, that we can now re-engage and trust God through this. So I'm trusting God, not just in the happy times, but trusting God hard daily, even through the tough times. Now, the challenge is that we don't let our happenings from the day dictate more than it should. It challenges us as imitators of God to really nail down and trust God through our difficult yesterdays with all of our hopeful tomorrows. So I want to just leave you with a couple things. I want to encourage all of us, myself too. Remember, I sit in the pews, although I preach. The messages on Sunday morning are just as much for me as they are for you, and for all that are listening. So I just want to encourage all of us of God's sacrificial love to lean into that when we are tempted to lean into our circumstances and what our circumstances dictate, how we should feel, the emotions that rise up. I want to just encourage us, not in a clinical way, but just lean into to God. Lean into His Word for foundational truth as we go through maybe some difficult times. Trust God more with more than just the simple outcomes. Trust God for everything that happens behind the scenes. So, as a side note, there's a lot of noise going off. My cell phone's buzzing this morning, and so I apologize about that. But there's a lot going on outside this morning. The new edition is coming along, but I just want to take some time, since we're not going to be in church on Sunday morning. I just want to take some time and give a shout out. This week, there's been an incredible amount of work done by folks in the church. Once again. And so I want to say thanks so much to a whole slew of guys that showed up on Monday and Tuesday night. Stan Puzio, Tom Havranek, Tom Houston, who's actually been here almost every night over the last couple of weeks, working on either rewiring stuff or running new wiring, and he's even out there again today. And so he's been a trooper. I want to say thanks to Bruce Lighty, Gary Rogan, Jason Puzio. I really hope that I'm not missing anybody. I was actually in Bible study during this time on Monday night, so I'm not sure that I did get everybody, but I just want to say thanks so much for a heck of a week of doing some hard work to help us prepare what's actually going to be happening today and tomorrow. They are putting down the insulation and re-leveling the floor in the new addition and in the carport area, because tomorrow they're going to be pouring concrete. And so, hey, the foundation of all of the floor of the new additions going in. And so I just wanted to say thanks so much. And if you haven't driven by the church recently, I just encourage you to do that. Check it out. See all of the stuff that's been happening, and just the beauty and the hope of what ministry will look like when the new edition is done. So lastly, just keep pressing in and trusting God for our everything. Until we get to touch base again, shalom, and maybe